Despite several postponed games due to COVID-19 and other complications linked to the pandemic, the NFL limped through the regular season and is now turning the page to the playoffs. The league expanded the postseason to include 2 additional teams this year. In the American Football Conference, the Cleveland Browns are in the playoffs for the first time since 2002, after ending the NFL's longest-running drought. In the NFC, the Washington football team won its division and clinched a spot in the last game of the regular season. Washington is now matched up with Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So CBS Sports senior NFL writer Will Brinson is with us to break it all down, all the highlights from the weekend. Will, thanks for joining us. Of course, Washington is in, which means Philadelphia is out. And man, did Doug Peterson, the coach, really sort of take a hit. A lot of people accuse the Eagles of, basically a tank job. I saw one headline that said it was a successful loss. So what's the deal? Does the head coach deserve all the criticism he's getting? What was your take on what you saw?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a fine line here. So the Eagles were going to have the 9th overall pick in the NFL draft if they beat the Washington football team, and the Giants would have gone to the playoffs. When the Eagles suddenly, at the beginning of the 4th quarter, decided to pull Jalen Hurts for Nate Sudfeld, who looked about as competent as I would have on the football field last night, everyone was under the impression that they were purposely losing the football game and tanking. And Giants fans were outraged. It was actually hilarious because Giants fans is like, how dare you ruin our 6-10 season? We earned this right. They were really, really mad. It was quite amusing. But, I don't. It's tough because we applaud the Buffalo Bills for pulling Josh Allen at halftime in order to gain something in the future. We applaud the Pittsburgh Steelers for saying, you need to rest Ben. It doesn't matter what the seeding is. You need to gain that future success. Well, the difference between where the Eagles ended up with where they would have ended up with the 9th pick and where they did end up with the 6th pick is roughly equivalent to 250 draft value points. Now, without getting into the weeds of all that, it's basically worth like a middle to late 2nd round pick. That's a really valuable commodity. That's where they drafted Jalen Hurts. So, it's not, it feels a little, makes you feel a little queasy, makes you feel a little squeamish, the idea that they lost the game on purpose. We can't prove that they did. Doug Peterson claims that he won, but it is certainly a hot topic of conversation amongst football fans and the national media because it felt like on that big stage that Philly was sort of laying down. I think the lesson for the NFL here, and I would guess there's no investigation or anything like that. You have to be able to prove intent, et cetera. But the lesson for the NFL is you need both teams in that Sunday night game, the game you flex to Sunday Night Football, to have some sort of motivation because Philly really didn't have any. And if this had happened in a 1:00 game, congruent with the Cowboys and the Cowboys and the Giants game, I don't think there would have been nearly as big a fuss being made out of it.
All right, so let's talk about the playoffs. In the new format, there will be 6 total games next weekend instead of the usual 4. So what matchups should we keep an eye on?
Oh, man, all of them. I mean, there really are really good matchups. I know that's not helpful, but I think I'm a Phillip Rivers homer. Everybody knows that. You can see all the state stuff behind me. I root for Rivers. I pumped for the Colts this year. So I say that with, leading up to the fact that I think that Buffalo, Indianapolis, which is actually the first game on CBS, mind you, is maybe the most important matchup in terms of how the playoffs shake out. Because when you look at what Indianapolis does really well, they run the football. Jonathan Taylor, the rookie out of Wisconsin, has been outstanding running the football down the stretch after a rough start to his season. He looks like a dominant runner. The Colts offensive line can move guys. And if there's one way to attack the Buffalo Bills is by running the football at them because their interior of their defensive line is a little bit smaller and you can get physical with them in the run game. At the same time, Josh Allen for the Buffalo Bills broke every Bills passing record that the franchise has. I mean, they went 13-3. Their only losses were to the Titans in a COVID game, the Chiefs, and then that Hail Mary against the Cardinals. They won 9 of their last 10 games. They've been fantastic. He's the runner-up MVP in my opinion. But if he has one fault, it's that you can limit his rushing ability and you can set up in a zone defense that prevents him from, just torching you with man-to-man coverages with Stephon Diggs. So that's what Indianapolis does. So I think that's a really key piece there for this playoffs because if Indy can pull the upset, then all of a sudden it's you yank this number 2 seed out of the playoffs and would really create some turmoil there.
You know, COVID has just made this such a weird season because at any given point, a team could lose, a whole position. One wide receiver gets COVID and then they all practice together. So all of them have been exposed and suddenly the team is like totally transformed. So this might be like a hard prediction to make, but which AFC and which NFC teams do you believe are best positioned for a deep run in the postseason?
Oh, that's not a hard question to ask. I thought you were going to ask me which teams are going to have an outbreak, and I was like, well, gosh, I don't know that one.
Depends on the extracurricular activities.
I know, that's right. No, I mean, I think the point is it's a really important point. You look at Alvin Kamara for the Saints. Like the NFL basically said, we will not change your schedule to fit COVID protocols. Like we're not going to change the playoffs around. Like if you have, if a quarterback test positive for COVID or is put on the COVID list, they have to stay on there for a lengthy amount of time. And if that happens to coincide with the schedule of the playoff game, the NFL is not going to make alterations for it. So I would say that, if you're looking for a team, the best position to make a deep playoff run, I think what you need to have is that you need to have a quarterback who's capable of elevating his play to an elite level. You look at the Saints, with Drew Brees, the Colts with Phillip Rivers, Josh Allen. I mean, there's Tom Brady with the Buccaneers. You need a defense that can get hot and create turnovers. I don't think we'll see a team make a deep run in the playoffs without good quarterback play and great defensive play. And then I think it also helps you a ton to have a running game that you can close out games with. You need to have a potent offensive line and a quality running game in order to be able to salt these games away. There are a lot of teams out there that have it. Obviously, Kansas City is capable of doing this. They did it last year. Green Bay is an intriguing team. Their defense has some holes in it. The Saints I mentioned. I think Tampa Bay is capable of making a deep run. They have to get past this tricky Washington matchup. But I think they're probably I'll say six teams, I think, that are probably favorites to make a deep run. Seattle is one more team I would say to look at just because Russell Wilson is such an elite level quarterback. He could, if he just gets hot for 3 games, all of a sudden Seattle can certainly find themselves making a deep run.
So while the playoff teams compete for the Lombardi Trophy, Will, there's another prize that's up for grabs. Most valuable player. Who is your MVP this season?
Well, look, I agree with the betting odds in the betting markets, and it's Aaron Rodgers. He's been outstanding this year, elevated the Green Bay Packers to the #1 overall seed in the NFC in his second year with Matt LaFleur, when many people were calling him washed up. His own team drafted Jordan Love in the first round, his future replacement. Rodgers played out of his mind. He has had a lot of help in terms of the offensive line being good, a great run game, but this is not a team with a ton of weapons. Devontae Adams is one of the highest usage wide receivers in all of football, and Rodgers leaned on him. And to play this way at his age, when many people were writing him off after, we thought this was the season we'd get last year when he changed away from Mike McCarthy, it is hard to go away from Aaron Rodgers. I do think that Josh Allen deserves a lot of credit for his incredible season. And Patrick Mahomes is very good, too. But to me, Rodgers, in the way that he closed out this season, in significant high-profile games, both on that Sunday night in Week 16 against the Titans in the snow, and then this past week against the Bears. He started out 10 for 10 with 3 touchdown passes. You just got to give it to Rodgers. I think it's a slam dunk, and he'll probably end up garnering something I would guess in the range of like 40 to 45 of the 50 votes.
So some teams are celebrating their accomplishments, others making some changes. The New York Jets fired head coach Adam Gase. The Jacksonville Jaguars broke up with Doug Marrone. I don't know how you even judge someone's performance with this season, especially when I think about Gase. He hasn't had a lot of time. That being said, who else is on the hot seat?
Yeah, so this is a really weird year for coaching. I thought coming into it with the pandemic that we would be primarily dealing with coaches, only like a lower number of coaches getting fired and only after the season, because it feels like a real jerk move to fire somebody during a pandemic. But I guess the NFL teams just don't care. We lost 3 guys who were released mid-season, with Dan Quinn and Matt Patricia headlining those. And then, of course, Bill O'Brien, who was the first one gone. Marrone and Adam Gase, not surprises at all. They finished with the first and 1 and 2 picks overall, the 2 worst records in football. Jets fans have been clamoring for Adam Gase to be gone for a while now. He just hadn't done a good job there. And Doug Marrone, the Jaguars fired their GM Marone had been there 4 years. They'd won 12 games over the last 3 seasons after that surprising 2017 championship run. And I think if you want to bring in a GM who can help transform your team like the Jaguars do, and they have a really attractive job right now because they have the #1 overall pick. Presumably we'll get Trevor Lawrence with that. I think 11 picks in this draft, a ton of cap space, and that's big considering we think the cap will go down. A lot of nice little young pieces on the team. So this is a job that will be attractive to a GM, but it reduces the number of candidates who will look at the job if you aren't willing to make a change at head coach. And so ultimately they decided to move on from Doug Marone. Very attractive job there. I think it should be a pretty short cycle. If we get past Anthony Lynn in Los Angeles, and it sounds like he may have saved his job, we could be done with the firings. There's no more guaranteed firings because the 5 guys we thought would be gone are already gone. A lot of these coaches, I think there's a chance. Philadelphia, we mentioned, outside chance, very short, slim chance. Doug Peterson already did a Zoom call with the media this morning, along with GM Howie Roseman. And then I think Vic Fangio in Denver is at least a name to watch. But it does seem like it may be kind of cut and dry in terms of Black Monday and who ends up losing their jobs.
All right, Will, thank you so much. I feel like I watched every game over the weekend. Thanks.
Me too.